All right, and the third industry we're going to be looking at is the virtual tech industry. We see the emergence of the cloud era. Security is becoming worse, but it is forecasted to improve. We're having data teams bridge the gap between IT and business operations. They're having a change from the sale of products to selling of products and services. Competition is increasing as new products are developed and more companies are entering the market. And there are blended and diverse workforces that are using more technology to communicate and conduct business. So we're going to look at our ratios again. My primary focus is going to be Microsoft and Alphabet. We see that both have strong current ratios. Alphabet by far can pay for everything that they have right now. Alphabet is actually the parent company of Google, and you can see they have strong, steady increases across the board. We're also seeing increases for Microsoft as well, but they're more stable. With the other companies, such as AMD, they're having to take on some debt, and they're not actually able to afford their debt right now. Microsoft hardly taking on anything. HTC not taking on much debt. Alphabet hardly taking anything. And although HTC is not taking on much debt, they still cannot afford it. They're actually far in the negative right now in their times interest earned. Microsoft, they're doing just fine. They had decreased their times interest earned since 2015, but they're still well above the average. With Alphabet steadily increasing the past couple of years, with just a small drop, with a drop from 2013 to 2014, with an increase after that. With asset efficiency, we see that these industries, depending on where they are in technological industry, they may be selling a lot more products than others, such as AMD and GoPro. So they're going to have higher asset efficiency, whereas business like Alphabet, which doesn't have many products out to sell right now, is going to be lower. We also see that with Microsoft. So they've stayed fairly the same, with a slight decrease of the past couple years for their asset turnover ratios. Then we're going to look at profit margin, return on assets, and return on equity. We see that AMD's profit margin is in the negative, so we're just going to avoid them. HTC's profit margin is negative, we're avoiding them, and then GoPro is also touched negative. So really, there's only two companies that we really want to look at with this: Microsoft and Alphabet. Alphabet's been very stable the past couple of years, starting at 21.4 in 2012, ending at 21.58 for the profit margin in 2016. Microsoft has had a nice steady little decline from 33 to 13 the past few years, but they're still looking much better than their competitors. We also see them on a decline in their return on assets. This could be due to their decline in profit margin. Seeing their return on equity also decline, also touched by the profit margin. Whereas you're looking at Alphabet, they haven't really changed too much over this past few years. They've been very stable, very stagnant with their return on equity in a very comfortable position. With their price earnings ratio, we weren't able to get any values for AMD, hardly any for HTC, and hardly any for GoPro. But looking at Microsoft, we see a nice increase the past several years, as well as with Alphabet, with a slight decrease from last year. With the market to book ratios, we're seeing that AMD is being undervalued, but that one number we're just going to avoid it, being that we didn't see the price earnings ratio and they were actually in the negative for return on assets. Microsoft's seen a steady increase over the past couple of years, and Alphabet has been staying relatively the same, with an increase through 2015 and a drop back down in 2016. So we're going to look at their little graph on their return on equity. We're going to see AMD way down here, all in the negative, and we're going to have Microsoft starting a little higher early, but having a little decline, and you can see Alphabet right here, stable as can be. Not having anything, a good, safe company. With AMD, they are in the negative EVA, with 15.9 weighted average cost of capital, and Microsoft is far in the positive, over 3,000 economic value added, and a 9% weighted cost of capital. HTC, I'm just noticing that is actually not in US denomination, so they're in the negative, with their weighted average cost of capital at 19.3%. And then Alphabet's EVA is at 3,000, and their weighted average cost of capital is 11.1, with no impact at all from debt. And then we're going to have a GoPro as well, with 13.4 economic weighted average cost of capital. So my two companies that I'm looking at, avoid these check marks. They are not accurate, but we can see that looking at these numbers from earlier, that we have higher return on equity and increasing return on equity. Well, not increasing, stable return on equity compared to Microsoft's return on equity for Alphabet. Increased return on assets and more return on assets than Microsoft. Increased profit margin for Alphabet and less debt. Basically, across the board, Alphabet is looking like the best company to go for within this industry. So next we're going to be looking at the best of each. So we got Alphabet, AstraZeneca, which I'm now thinking was probably Pfizer, but we're going to just move on, and Toyota. We see that AstraZeneca does have the highest return on equity, but they've been going across the board, dipping and dropping and rising. Toyota has started lower, but they've hit a nice stable point, and then Alphabet has just stayed almost a straight line the past several years. With their equity multiplier, we're also seeing that Alphabet's taken on no more debt, staying about the same. AstraZeneca's having to take on more to stay afloat, and Toyota is staying about the same as well, just increased value, quite almost double what Alphabet has. Seeing the return on assets, Alphabet far ahead, stable as can be. Toyota seen a nice increase, with AstraZeneca currently seeing an increase as well. Times interest earn ratio, we see Alphabet far in the lead, and they're able to pay their debt over 150 times, starting off and ending nearly 200 times by 2016. So all in all, our favorite company is going to be Alphabet. Better liquidity ratios, more efficiency, less leverage, higher time total, whatever, higher profitability, higher market values. This is going to be the one that we need to go with. And ending with a few little definitions.